member spotlight, this time featuring a really dear friend and colleague of mine. His name is Alan Short. He's, don't hold it against him, originally an engineer by trade, but these days he's doing something very, very different. So first of all, Alan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brom. It's great to be here, great to be on, and great to be talking on this fantastic day where I am, which is different to where you are.
Yeah, it looks like a very different office environment. Clearly, those are real trees, not just plastic ones. So tell us a little bit more where you are these days.
Yeah, these are definitely real trees. I'm having a working holiday up in Noosa. I'm a wannabe surfer, a bit of a hack, but love being around surfers. And there's a surfing festival up at Noosa this week, so I've come. I'm working a few hours each day, watching surfing and going for a surf every day. So living the lifestyle while operating my business.
I would call that living the dream. And speaking of that, you obviously in Noosa for people that are from international, because sometimes these videos, they travel the world. Think of Queensland. If you think about the Great Barrier Reef, well, it's in that same state, just a little bit more down. A beautiful part of Australia and a beautiful surfing spot. So with the perfect climate, I'd say, isn't it?
Yeah, and the festival here is the biggest longboard surfing festival in Australia. So quite a treat for anybody who's likes surfing a little bit slower than the shortboards.
Just like you, I'm an avid surfer, shortboards albeit. But today's topic is a really important one. So what no matter what people's passions are in a personal life and the lifestyle ambitions that they have, I think what you really beautifully demonstrate just by the mere fact of, yes, working out of Noosa, whilst normally Adelaide is home where I live as well, you basically are showing that you can work remotely, even though you have multiple businesses that you run. Tell us a little bit more about those businesses, Alan.
So I have a fire protection maintenance business that I took over from my dad when it was just a handful of staff, and built that up to now 20 staff. And as I built that, I built it so that I was redundant from every role I ever had. So effectively, I'm now redundant from day-to-day operations of that business and really just chairman of the board sort of level rather than as a employee sort of level. And that's really freed me up to do some business coaching and help other business owners take the journey from being one or two people in their business through to being that 10, 15, 20 people in their business. So moving from I have a job and these people help me to I now have a business and I run a business and it employs people. So taking people on that journey to freedom.
That business coaching, it's called global business coaching.
Yep.
You and I work very closely in that environment, and I'm really thrilled to take that also to the next level. What sort of businesses do you tend to work with, and what do you typically see that stands in the way from becoming that business owner that has made himself redundant or herself redundant?
I do a lot of work with service businesses, both professional and trade services. And it's about what I often find with all of those is they're really good at doing what they do. So if they're a plumber, they know how to be a plumber. If they're a lawyer, they know how to be a lawyer. If they're a consultant, they know how to be a consultant. But what they do is they build a business that's initially about them and they become the head and they employ extra hands and arms. And you get to a point where you can't operate all those hands and arms. And then you start to feel overwhelmed. And then you make one of two decisions. One of three decisions. You either go and get small again. So you go back to being one or two people when you feel less stressed, or you continue to battle on through that immaturity size of a business, as Michael Gerber calls it, or you rethink your business and you build it into a business that operates without you. And a lot of that is about the mind shift of the owner, about the mind shift from going, I am the best at doing everything, to I can actually train people to be just as good or better than me and free me up from each one of those tasks that I am doing. And especially when the business owner has, that half dozen people and everything revolves around them and they're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, missing time with their family, not looking after themselves because they can't exercise or look after their health. They don't get holidays and they just live a life that's really hard, and often that results also in struggling for cash flow. They're not necessarily paying themselves, and there's just this cascade of things not going well, and you go, why the hell did I get into business in the first place? And that's where people have to make that decision of, do they keep going the hard way, go small, which is often the wrong way, or look at getting help to think about, well, the whole business a different way.
Yeah, I understand. And yes, just before you said Michael Gerber, I was thinking of him exactly the same time. So obviously the author of E-Myth, who speaks of technicians, basically a business owner operator who's really on the tools and doing the things, nitty gritty stuff, and the business revolving around them. So yes, you basically helping them to distance themselves from that, step away from, and let the business take care of itself. So I think that's a really good point, because where I'd like to take this from now, you and I have become very clear that your ideal clients that really need you and value what you bring to them is what on disc?
Often a D and an I. They're typically people who have the passion to take the business. They make decisions really quickly, move forward, but often don't go back and build the systems behind them that their team need to make sure they can operate that business. So they're often very quick to delegate something, but not delegate it with enough of framework behind it so that they can set the people up for success. And then they often get really cross or really disappointed that they hand these jobs to somebody and nobody ever delivers it with what they want, because they hand off it quick and expect quick results, and they're not handing it off to that same sort of person.
And then we hear, of course, people might leave, then they're upset about that. Then a lot of knowledge is out of the business too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of stuck in somebody's head. So not having systemized and put the processes and systems in place is really where you help them to get that right.
Correct. Yeah. And often there's the misconception with building systems that I'm the boss, I build the system, and then I give it to you. And that doesn't work as effectively as going, I'm going to teach you how to do a task, and you're going to document it as we go along. And I'll make sure that I'll give the guidance to it, but you're the person who has to make sure that it's enough so that you can then hand the task on to the next person, because you're the person who's being taught it. Because as business owners or people that are delegating a task, we know it intimately and we forget the small details that we don't know.
That's it. And it's better that a subject matter expert, aka the person doing the job, you employed in the first place to be a specialist in that field. So they probably have a lot more finesse and knowledge and ideas on how to do it better, smarter, faster, cheaper, and so on and so forth than, the business owner who sits somewhere up at the board level, as you said.
Yep, exactly.
That's great. One of the things that you're also are very passionate about is profit. What would you say that profit first really brings to business owners that are having issues with cash?
Yeah, profit first is a system that I introduced into my fire protection business I talked about earlier. We did 17, 18 years of effectively being break even. We might make 5% profit one year and a 2% profit, 2% or 3% loss the next year. But over the whole 18 years, it was basically break even, which means it was one COVID away from going under, running out of cash. And I read Mike Michalowicz' book, Profit First, and started implementing those strategies into my business. We now make 8% in a really price-sensitive, tight market, 8% net profit. Even though I don't work full-time, I pay myself what would be the equivalent of a full-time salary and take a good percentage of that profit out every year. So it's allowed me to double the money that the business pays me through profit, and it's also allowed me to use that profit to help pay my staff bonuses based on performance. So everybody's making more money out of the business. Everybody's actually feeling better. And when something like COVID happens, we have a bag of money sitting in an account that we can make sure that we don't have to respond immediately, that we can actually make considered decisions and decide over time.
I really like this one. I mean, I think it was also Michael Gerber who already said it's a smart idea to pay yourself first, but I like how this profit first system is going way beyond that and even creates different accounts. Some of the accounts you don't even get to see for 3 months. and they have all a purpose with certain percentages attached to them, right?
Yeah. And it's such a simple system. Our accountants, we love them, we need them, they're really important. But our accountants come from an accounting background and go, you should be managing your business through your profit and loss and your balance sheet. And for a lot of business owners who are more of a technician and don't come with an accounting background, how to understand their profit and loss and how to understand their balance sheet and what liabilities they need to be accounting for, their tax debt that's accruing and how they need to account for that, and all these sort of things that an accountant can easily do because they really understand profit and loss and their balance sheet. The average business owner doesn't understand or struggles to understand and therefore doesn't check them regularly. What I love about the Profit First system, which is one of the reasons that I've gone and been registered as a Profit First professional, is the ability to manage what we already do. So as business owners, most of us go in and check our bank accounts, if not daily, once a week, and it picks up on this habit and adds to this habit to make sure that you've got enough money to pay yourself, you've got enough money to pay your taxes, you've got enough money set aside for profit. And then when you do find that you might not have enough left for expenses, it's really your business telling you that you don't have enough, you're spending too much on expenses. So it's a really good, simple way that works with our natural habits to understand where our business stands.
That's right. So it's very much rather than looking in the rearview mirror of profit and loss and balance sheets, which is really like what the past tells us, you're saying, well, let the money in the bank dictate where you're at and bring it, because that's easy. It's close to bed. Everybody gets that.
Yeah. And for most of us, if you're like me, it's actually not a system that's brand new. It's a system my mum used back in the day to manage the household accounts, except for she put cash, if anybody remembers cash, she put cash into envelopes. So there was an envelope for school fees, an envelope for the mortgage, and an envelope for holidays. It's that system applied to business and the modern world of online banking.
Yeah, I love it. Look, one thing that I really found useful, which I know that you will be touching on in your face-to-face as well as in your online workshops around Profit First, is those benchmarks for the type of business that you're in and the size in terms of revenue that you're at and how percentages are ideally proportioned. I thought that was super insightful.
Yeah, it's really important because often I was just writing a post the other day, actually this morning, talking about how we often go, our business pays us this much. And then on the other hand, we're actually investing this much money into bolster up the business. And we go, oh, yeah, I made $200,000 out of it. But on the other hand, you've just put in 100,000. And, the profit loss and balance sheet shows that, but not in a really obvious way, where this system really gets you to have a look at what is your profit really and what are you really paying yourself, and then benchmarks that against businesses of different sizes. And it really helps you compare business to business really well, because often, if you're a consultant or someone like that who's selling hours, then, you might have a business that's worth $2 million and you go talk to another business owner down the track who might be say a $5 million house builder. And you go, they're a $5 million business and I'm a $2 million business. But when you take into account that, the builder doesn't do the foundations, doesn't do the brickwork, doesn't do the roofing, doesn't do all the gyprocking and flushing, and doesn't put the kitchens in, when you take out what other people do, they might only be $1 million business. And they need to put on the hat of, I need to make a decision as $1 million business, not as a $5 million business. And when people have that reality check and go, oh yeah, that's really the size business I am, it changes. If you're $1 million business, you're not going to spend $500,000 on a piece of equipment, which you might do if you're a $5 million business.
That's it. So I like how you make that really clear between the $2 million and the $5 million business. One thing that I also noticed that in that same equation, it's really important to know your numbers and know like how far can I go. I love also the fact that it's very prescriptive to say if your revenue is between this and that, and you take out all material costs and so on, so that you have actually net revenue, so to speak. then it also tells you, well, now, right now, you're overpaying you or underpaying yourself. It really
Yeah.
goes to that length and by how much. And so it's a very smart way of doing it. So look, for people that want to learn a little bit more and want to see where they fit inside, their industry, do they need more sales?
Mm-hmm.
Do they need to cut costs? Where would they go, Alan?
Yeah, look, connecting with me on social media will give you some of that access. I do have a face-to-face workshop in Adelaide on the 8th of April,
Mhm.
and a online one in the morning and one in the afternoon, to try to get across most of the time zones on the 9th of April. And
Yeah.
then there'll be some ongoing stuff, which I'll post links to.
Beautiful. What can people expect from that workshop, whether they do it in person or online? What exactly will you be covering and how long does it take?
Yeah, so that workshop will be 90 minutes, or a little bit under 90 minutes. We're
Mhm.
really going to explore why the profit first system is important,
Mhm.
and how it works and why it works. And
Mhm.
then we're going to do that instant assessment that you were referring to before. So we're going to actually get you to pull out your numbers and actually see where you are in regards to the benchmarks
Mhm.
for your industry and where your industry is at in terms of revenue. So super helpful. You'll then be able to go, am I putting enough away for tax? Am
Mhm.
I making enough profit? Am I paying myself too much or too little? And are my expenses too high or just about right? So it's a really powerful exercise to go, this is where I am.
Mhm.
And then we'll also be talking about, okay, cool, how do you implement this system into your existing business structure? And
Mhm.
then how do you move from where you are to where you want to be?
Yeah.
So, if you're not paying yourself properly, you can't go from paying yourself 50,000 to paying yourself $100,000 overnight. That breaks your business. So
Mhm.
how do we step from one to the other? It'll be something else we'll explore together. And there'll be some options for people if they want to get some assistance in doing that into their business. So there'll be a coaching programs coming out of that, both a done for you and a done with you program.
Wonderful. So 90 minutes, whether in person or online, value for people is that they actually really understand like how this system could benefit their business. Secondly, get a benchmark for their industry and see whether they're hitting the mark or really missing it. And ideally speaking, the people that would benefit from this would typically probably have either an outstanding tax bill, they might have struggle with cash flow management and,
Yep.
and sometimes have highs and lows. They might be sometimes behind with payments of bills. They
Yep.
might not necessarily know how much they should pay themselves and sometimes invest back of their
Yep.
hard-earned cash in the business. I think that these are all the reasons why people would want to have a closer look at this, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And, and if you've never drawn profit out your business, if you've had your business and it's paid you a salary and you've never been able to set aside a decent percentage of profit and take that profit out your business, if your accountant tells you you make profit and you've never seen it in your pocket, then this is also a really good workshop for you. You've got a really sound base to work from, as opposed to somebody who might be a break-even business
Mm.
and struggling with tax debt. But all of those business types in all of these industries, this book and this methodology is priceless. It's basically something I do with every single one of my clients.
Yeah. I really appreciate you walking us through this all, and I highly recommend everybody to jump on this opportunity to work with Alan directly. And the reason being, just think about this. There's a lot of business coaches out there, but how many have built a successful business that operates on itself without the business owner in it with 20 staff and can, yes, go surfing for the whole week in Noosa? And basically check in very little with business interest at the time being and still get paid. This sort of idea, I think, is a game changer. Alan and I work very closely together. Any of my business coaching related inquiries automatically go to Alan. So I warmly endorse his services, and he's also a good man. He even has a good sense of humor, don't you, Alan?
I try to, mate. I try to, like every good Australian. putting ourselves down is always a good way to the Australian humour.
I very much appreciate you giving some of your precious time in the tropics. Thank you so much for coming in today. Please make sure that you add those links to me, and I'll then add them into every live stream on every portal so that people can find their way to you personally, as well as to your workshops that you run.
Awesome. Graham, I really appreciate the opportunity and those kind words that you said. So thank you very much, mate.